they do is allow for federal funds to be released for reimbursement. And all ears and eyes on the courtroom in Memphis where a jury's deliberating the Tyree Nichols case. 3 black former police officers facing life in prison if convicted in Nichols' beating death. They have pleaded not guilty. Money News, here's Jim Ryan.
Investors have spent the first 3 days of October trying to find their footing. Going into the midday, the Dow was lower by 175 points and falling back toward 42,000. The S&P was off a fraction. The Nasdaq had gained 0.1%. After a series of declines, weekly jobless claims rose by 6,000 last week. That comes as Amazon announces it's hiring 250,000 full and part-time workers for the holidays. The pay starts at $18 an hour with health benefits. Toyota says slowing electric vehicle sales mean that it has to slow down its production plans. Nikkei Business today says work on a 3-row electric SUV that was set to start late next year at a plant in Kentucky is being pushed back to 2026. And Levi's might be ditching Dockers. The jeans company has ordered a strategic review of the Dockers brand after sales were down 15% in the last quarter. The company says it's open to several options, including selling the Dockers brand.
All right, let's look at stocks here at the midday. Right now, the Dow is down 312 points, S&P down 29, NASDAQ down 86. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, friends, welcome in. It's just past high noon. My name is Matt Murphy, and this is the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Pleased you've decided to join us. It is 12:07 to be precise. It is Thursday, October 3rd, 2024. Our episode 665. Ooh, the next episode won't be till Monday because I'm off tomorrow, but the next episode, man, oh man, a scary one. 665 today, 666 on Monday. Cameron Smith in for me tomorrow. More on that coming up in just a couple of minutes. I can't seem to manage to work on Fridays, according to some people, although I've only taken, I looked this morning because I knew I would get hell about this. I've only taken 7 days of vacation for the entirety of the year, and there's only October, November, December left. So I feel pretty comfortable in that. Anyway, so we're off tomorrow. We have lots to do today, lots to get to, and I hope you're able to spend every single moment with us on Super Talk 99.7 WTN until we hand it off to Brian Wilson and The Drive. It's locked for Trump Day number 215. For 215 solid days, I've been growing out my hair in anticipation of a new president-elect where Joe Biden is sent packing, although Joe Biden probably doesn't know what year it is, much less where he lives. Kamala Harris, let's send her packing as well. I also said that if Donald Trump does, in fact, win, I won't cut the hair until Inauguration Day, or at least Inauguration Day. But anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about you. There's lots to get into today specific to the issue of Hurricane Helene and continued efforts to recover from Hurricane Helene and literally to rescue people. We are still a week later rescuing people. And as I like to remind you, a lot of this caught a lot of us unawares. We did not anticipate the major flooding, the major amount of rainfall that happened in areas of the country that cannot handle that level of rainfall. It swelled the rivers, and it caused massive flooding, massive damage. Dams were not busted, but they were breached, which is different. Just a lot to get into and a lot of information to try to provide the public. We're going to focus on that for the most part today. We will have Friday on Thursday at 1:05 this afternoon. Jay will tell us everything we need to know about the longshoremen's strike. Jay St. Clair, for those of you who don't know, if you listen to Jay on Fridays, and we love that segment, it's the favorite segment that most people listen to on the Matt Murphy Show for many of you, and I appreciate all of you. I've known the man for a long time. I like to say he is our legal correspondent, my life consultant, best friend, gambling buddy, and golfing partner. And he's a Tennessee man, born in the Sequatchie Valley, so he knows very well some of these areas that have been impacted, not necessarily the Sequatchie Valley, but some of the areas over to the east that have been impacted by the storm. So he can speak to that as well, but he'll be here at 1:05 to talk with us about the longshoreman strike, because that is truly his area of expertise. He is one of the finest, if not the finest, employment lawyer in the United States of America. Works for a firm called Littler Mendelson, and he has negotiated union contracts. He has sat in on negotiations on union contracts, and he can speak directly to what the longshoremen want and what they will do if they do not get what they wish. Now, that leads us to the toilet paper shortage of 2024, which is absolutely ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense, and I'm going to explain to you why it doesn't make any sense, but it remains true that there is a run on toilet paper. It is the definition of perception becoming reality. When you walk into the store, and I'm going to tell you a story. Do any of you know the story of the Johnny Carson TP shortage in the 1970s? I think if you look it up, let me confirm this, because I think if you do this, if you look up Johnny, you remember Johnny Carson? Sammy is behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speaker sounds as good as humanly possible. Before I go any further, I need to introduce the players of the show. Ken Weaver's back there somewhere, gathering headlines and doing his news business.
Good afternoon, everyone.
See, I don't need to ask Ken Weaver, Sammy, if he knows who Johnny Carson is, because Ken is old enough that I know that he knows who Johnny Carson is. Do you, Sammy, know who Johnny Carson is?
Yeah, I know who Johnny Carson is.
Who Johnny Carson was.
Yeah.
Are you aware of the Johnny Carson TP scare in the 1970s?
I am not aware of that.
So I'll look the story up so I don't screw it up. But the synopsis of the story is this. Johnny Carson was incredibly popular. Everyone watched Carson. Nobody watched anything else. There were maybe one or two other choices at that time of night, but everyone watched Johnny Carson. This predates me in the late 70s, early 1980s. I got a chance to watch Carson as he was in his waning years, and it was still fabulous. But one way or the other, Johnny Carson makes an offhand comment one night during his monologue about, did you know there's a TP shortage? It's true, and it's true. Yes, sir. And it's just an offhand comment, and they think nothing of it. Well, most of America thought nothing of it. They recognized it as a joke. But the people that did not know that it was a joke, that actually believed that Johnny Carson was telling them the truth, they went to the stores and they hoarded toilet paper. And so when you get, 10% of the population acting like knuckleheads, to use a Tim Walz preferred phrase, and going into the grocery store and buying up TP, and they're hoarding it, so instead of just buying what they need, a package of toilet paper for the next couple of weeks or whatever, they're buying 10 or 12 or 14. They empty the shelves out before a new stock comes in. And so the next group of people come in and they walk down the aisle. These are people that did not believe Johnny Carson. They thought, ha, 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 Johnny's being funny. And then they walk down the toilet paper aisle and the believers have wiped the toilet paper aisle out. And so they go, wait a minute. Maybe Johnny was being serious.
Is this real?
Is this real? I better get up the last of the toilet paper. So they do. They get the last of the toilet paper. And then when a shipment comes in, everybody buys all the toilet paper. And before you know it, you've got what we call a run on the toilet paper. It happened during COVID-19. There was zero reason why people made a run on toilet paper. I get the antiseptic wipes. I get the antibacterial soap. I get the gel. I get masks. I get all of those things. None of that crap worked, but I get it. COVID-19 did not cause massive diarrhea. Why are people buying up all the toilet? But they did. You couldn't find toilet paper. So last night I made the comment, y'all, I don't think the Biden administration understands. I don't think Kamala Harris understands what could happen here. Now, it has to reach a breaking point where people who understand the truth are so concerned about the other people. So the other people that go to the stores and they hoard it, they create somewhat of a low-grade panic in the people that understand how all of this works. And so we're like, well, all of this is silly, all of this is stupid, but I better go get my toilet paper too because, what happens if everybody else buys some and I can't find any? I don't know of another product outside of gasoline that people treat with the seriousness that they treat toilet paper. I mean, right? I don't think I've ever spoken a more true statement on this radio show. People are serious, man. People will fight you in the aisles of Kroger.
And don't you take my Angel Soft.
You're an Angel Soft girl?
I'm an Angel Soft.
It's nice and cottony. I will give you that. I'll give you that.
I go with great value.
The rougher, the better. I go with 100 grit sand.
I go with a brand called Leaf.
Corn of cob. Damn it, I messed up the joke. Let me do it again.
Corn of
cob of corn. That was the joke. I screwed the joke. Cob of corn. What happened to those days? Just, Sears catalog, as they say, because it's big, a lot of pages. So perception perhaps is becoming reality because Sammy, you said you tried to get some TP last night?
Well, I was at an event last night, and so my parents were helping me out. They were helping me out with my daughter and some things. And so they went to Walmart because they heard on the show yesterday about toilet paper, and they were like, let's just go see what the toilet paper looks like since we're already going to the store for her. And they said that everything at the Lebanon Walmart was fully stocked except for the toilet paper aisle, which I sent you the picture, and it is completely bare. They were able to get me 9 individual rolls, like one package of 9 rolls, and they were able to get themselves the same thing, and then that was it. That was all that was left at the Lebanon Walmart.
People are funny,
People
man.
are crazy.
People are funny, man. So
we got to get that TP.
You got it. Well, look, I'm telling you, Weaver, can you think of anything that people are more serious about in terms of their lives than a gasoline, maybe?
Gasoline and TP. You got to have it, man.
Look, I don't mean to freak out all of you alcoholics in the listening audience, but we should be far more concerned about liquor than toilet paper with the longshoreman strike.
Yes, sir.
Because a lot of our liquor comes from overseas.
Well, so do bananas. About 75% of our bananas come from other countries.
Bananas.
Yes.
See, it's funny. Everything's relative sometimes. Because
I
you
eat
say
one every day for my blood pressure.
Do you now?
Yeah.
Well, see that worries you.
No,
for me, banana.
really.
You say bananas, and I'm like, whatever. You can have them. You can have. Hey, Ken.
Yeah.
You can have my banana.
Okay.
I'll give you my banana.
See me rolling up with a big old bunch of bananas and toilet paper.
I know. I'm going to see Ken Weaver rolling up at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Hey, Murphy, where's my nanners?
And a case of Coors Light.
I was talking to somebody in the with TEMA, the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency, because we're going to have Patrick Sheehan on at 2 o'clock this afternoon.
Excellent.
With TEMA to try to break through some of the rumors that are going on online. And I know that there are a lot of rumors. We'll talk about that. But he's coming up at 2 o'clock today. And I was on the phone with somebody with TEMA. And I don't know why I felt the need to say this, but I'm driving up. I get on Demumbrian, and I'm taking the left to the radio station, and I'm looking at 11:30 in the morning, and there's two couples. They look to be our age, Ken Weaver, somewhere in the 50s.
Yeah.
And both of the dudes are holding suitcases of beer, and they're walking along just, doing their thing. I said, I love living in a city where at 11:30 on a Thursday morning, we're just doing some day drinking, walking down the street with a suitcase of beer. That's just the way we roll right here in Nashville, Tennessee. That's
I wish they'd have come in the 24 packs back in high school. That'd have been something.
One of these days, remind me to tell you this. I don't think I've ever told you the story. Have I told you the story of Smiley?
I don't recall.
Smiley's where we bought our beer in Thompson, Georgia. No P in Thompson.
Okay. Was it a little bait shop?
Yeah, well, it was the he lived across the street from the little convenience store.
Okay.
On the outskirts of town. Now, there was a bait shop that we did that too.
Right.
And that was the one where you just went to the back of the store. You put the beer in a paper bag. They had a stack of paper bags in the back of the store.
Right.
And you go up to the clerk, and you just had to know how to do it. Because you go up to the clerk, and it's already in the bag, so the clerk can't really see what's in the bag. But they know exactly what you're doing, and they've got cameras and all that stuff. And they said, how much? And you tell them the price of whatever beer you bought, $8.95. All right, beep, 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 boop, beep, boop, boop. Called plausible deniability, baby. I don't recommend it. But Smiley was different. Smiley, no matter what you asked him to get you, he brought you a 6-pack of Michelob. I'm not kidding. And you, Ken, if you gave him a $20 bill, I made this mistake one time. The first time, because everybody knew, you're 16,
right.
Whatever.
Right.
You go to Smiley, he'll buy you some beer. You just got to tip him, right?
Right.
So you go to Smiley, hey, Smiley, will you go over and get me something? No matter what you ask for. All right, I got it. Give me some money, hoss. And you give him money, and I gave him a $20 bill. Now, this is in 90?
Yeah.
And, a 6-pack of Michelob is probably $5. And I give him a $20 bill, and he comes back, and I said, thanks, Smiley. Hey, where's my change? He goes, change? Come on, man. I had to kick in a quarter. Like, you are not. So there's a delicate balance, because if you got too close to the actual cost, Smiley wouldn't go get you any more alcohol. But if you had to tip him a little, but he kept everything. Anyway, don't do that, kids. Don't do that. That's bad news. Don't
even start it.
If you do that, you turn out like Mr. Murphy and Mr. Weaver, kids.
That's right.
And you don't want that.
Running your mouth all day.
That's the worst thing imaginable. So there's a run on toilet paper right now. And I'm not saying that the run has gotten really significant, but it's getting to a breaking point. And there will come a time, and I saw Brian, I don't know if he talked about it on the show yesterday, but I saw his post, and Brian Wilson is exactly right.
Yeah.
There is no reason to have a run on toilet paper.
No.
My point is, it doesn't matter. People do not care, and they will not think with their brains. They will think with their eyeballs, and they will see that there's not any toilet paper on the shelves, and it will freak them out. And perception will become reality.
Well, when I got home and saw Brian's post, it dawned on me. I forgot stopping at TP.
Right. That's the way that goes. All right, so we're going to get into Hurricane Helene. We'd love to get your telephone calls regarding this situation. It's very, very serious, and there's a lot of rumors that are going on online. And I want to address some of those rumors. We want to talk to you. We'll talk to Tim Burchett. Congressman Tim Burchett is on the phone with us at 12:35 this afternoon. Yeah, he'll be here. Our man, Jay St. Clair, will talk about the longshoreman strike at 1:05 this afternoon. And at 2:05, the director of the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency, Patrick Sheehan, will be here at 2:05 to give us the lowdown and to try to calm some nerves regarding what's going on in East Tennessee. That's all to come on the Matt Murphy Show. It's episode 665, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It can be hard to find someone that you trust when it comes to large home repair, including heating your home and cooling your home. Efficient Heating and Cooling is a small company with big service and big results. I trusted Jeff Eddy. I've met with Jeff Eddy, and I know that he's going to do the right thing by you. They prove it time and time again. If you're trying to make a decision as to whether to replace or repair your heater, maybe you've turned it on once over the course of the last couple of days or weeks, just to make sure it's running as it should. I encourage you to get the maintenance done on the heating unit. That's going to make sure that everything's running A-OK. But if you're concerned about it not running properly, call someone that you can trust. Jeff Eddy's not going to try to upsell you on anything. He's going to try to repair what you need repairing. And if it is time, he's an Elite Pro partner with Rheem, and he can recommend the right heating unit for you. Go to efficienthvac.net, efficienthvac.net, or call 615-784-4424. 784-4424 for our friends at Efficient.
All right, still got that massive traffic pileup about 42 miles west of Nashville. If you have business in Memphis today or Jackson, right now you're looking at a 2-hour delay, 40 westbound, because in Dixon, the left lane is blocked by an overturned truck. And the death toll keeps rising from Hurricane Helene. We've got the very latest at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. That's sad news about that accident. Sad news about the death toll rising, but sadly expected as well because recovery efforts continue to be very difficult. It's a matter of terrain, folks. It's a matter of being completely cut off. The waters that rose due to the incredible amount of rain due to Hurricane Helene simply washed over the roads and then eventually washed the roads away. I got caught in a rabbit hole last night of watching drone footage of some of the roadways that have literally been washed away. And they are saying, officials are saying on I-40, for example, sections of I-40 are obviously still impassable between Tennessee and North Carolina. The remnants of Hurricane Helene brought so much rain that, the maze of rivers in the mountains burst from their banks. All of that caused mudslides and tremendous devastation to property and life. How long will it take is unknown right now. We'll ask the Tennessee Emergency Management guy now that he's not TDOT, so I'm not asking Patrick Sheehan to give us any particular exact time frame. But there is a Google Map alert out that suggests that it's going to take until 2025. I've heard the suggestion that I-40 between Tennessee and like Asheville, the split where it splits on 81 and 40 splits, that section will not be back operable until March of next year. That is what I've been told. Now, don't hold me to that. But it's going to take a long time. According to the North Carolina Department of Transportation, Joey Hopkins, in general, we're going to prioritize the interstates and U.S. and North Carolina routes ahead of any secondary roads. But we have to look at how much damage we have. There's a significant amount of damage on I-40. So even though it's a top priority of ours, it's going to take a long time to fix. We're talking about months at best. That is the head of the Department of Transportation for the state of North Carolina. The repairs needed to I-40 will take at least months. And some are suggesting like up to 6, which is what that would be, right? October, November, December, January, February, March. Yeah, that'd be 6 months. A little over. There are alternate routes, obviously. And as Ken Weaver noted, there's a situation on 40 west of the city, and there are alternate routes to get to Memphis. At least I hope so, because that's the direction I'm going after I leave the show. So I'll try to find my alternate route as I speak. So Johnny Carson caused a toilet paper shortage in part in December of 1973. So he made a joke during his opening monologue of The Tonight Show in December about the possibility of an upcoming toilet paper shortage. Now, Carson was not the first to comment on the situation, and for those of us who did not necessarily live through the embargoes of the early 1970s, we probably maybe don't quite understand what a time of shortages it truly was, particularly due to the OPEC oil embargo against the United States of America and other factors. People were on high alert for shortages of product. And Johnny Carson made a joke to his audience and to his massive television audience, and they found the joke scary more than funny. And so by mid-December, by Christmas of 1973, multiple newspapers across the United States of America were reporting that stores were having to ration supplies of toilet paper. And eventually, Johnny Carson had to have the Scott Tissue president and CEO, I'm not making this up, on his show, and he brought video footage of toilet paper rolling off the assembly line. So Johnny Carson could show his audience. He said, quote, "I don't want to be remembered as the guy who created the toilet paper scare of 1973. Now, a lot of pulp, I'll tell you what, I'll get into this in a second, but a lot of pulp comes from overseas that we use to make toilet paper, but about 90% of the toilet paper that we use in the United States of America, Brian Wilson's figure was correct, obviously, is made right here in the good old USA. More on that coming up in just a moment. All of that to say, there are shortages all across the listening area, and people are writing me in on the membersnutrition.com super text line telling me all about it. It is 12:30, almost 12:31. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. And right now it is a 2-hour delay. Westbound 40, about 42 miles west of Nashville. Got an overturned truck blocking the left lane there, westbound 40 in Dixon. Hurricane Helene now blamed for at least 200 deaths across Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas. President Biden going to Florida and Georgia today to see the devastation in those states. Here in Tennessee, Governor Lee says federal approval of those two disaster declarations was, quote, really quick.
To be clear, the disaster declarations allow for funding for reimbursements. They don't speed up the response process.
And before leaving to survey hurricane damage, President Biden said there are discussions happening concerning Israel's response to Iran's ballistic missile attack earlier this week.
We don't allow Israel. We advise Israel, and there's nothing going to happen today.
And Israel promising a fast and significant response. Britain evacuating some of its citizens. This is Isabel Taper. After being told to get to the airport, get on a plane bound for the UK.
It's very surreal, so I think probably when I'll leave, then it will kick in a bit more. But at the moment being here, it's just been like everything's been quite a blur.
And the strike by over 40,000 dock workers in ports along the East Coast and Gulf of Mexico now in its third day. No sign of ending. Technology expert Gary Shapiro says down the road, some popular electronic holiday presents may not be in stock since many items are shipped from overseas because of a semiconductor shortage here in the U.S.
This will determine whether or not there's a good holiday and a strong economy or a recession and Scrooge coming along and holding back the gifts that consumers love.
All ears and eyes on the courtroom in Memphis where a jury is deliberating the Tyre Nichols case. 3 black former police officers facing life in prison if convicted in Nichols' beating death. They have all pleaded not guilty. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
All of the rain and the incredible aftermath of Hurricane Helene has reminded me to remind you about the importance of waterproofing your home and to make sure that you take care of small things before they become big things. And with that in mind, I want to talk to you about USS, United Structural Systems. For the last 30 years, they've been keeping homes stable and dry, and those two things are so interrelated because if water gets into your home, it's going to destabilize your home at some point down the road because water will not stop. Once it gets in, it'll continue to come in. You'll smell those musty smells, those moldy smells, and before you know it, you've got moisture in your basement, in your crawl space, affecting the lifespan of your home. You need to protect yourself from this, friends. Let's go ahead and call USS. If you suspect that something going on in that basement or crawl space, if you suspect that you've got foundation issues, it's time to call USS. They're simply the best. They've been around for 30 years with over 25,000 satisfied customer testimonials. It's USS. Go to USSTN.com or call 615-488-7855. 488-7855 for USS.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis with Nashville's Morning News and Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and you. It's 12:38. Good afternoon. Libertarian Lunch in progress. We're here till 3. Brian Wilson after that. Plenty to get to. Coming up in the 2 o'clock hour, as I mentioned, the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency Director Patrick Sheehan will be with us to try to dispel reality from myth or myth from reality. We'll try to get to the bottom of what's going on in East Tennessee. We'll find out the latest on where we are with regard to casualties, property damage, those missing, and what we can do to help. That's coming up at 2:05 this afternoon. Right now, we welcome Congressman Tim Burchett back to the show on the Murphy Hotline to talk about some of the devastation over in East Tennessee and what we can do to assist. Tim, it is good to talk to you. Good afternoon.
Hey, thank you for having me. And I will say TEMA, out of all those organizations in the country, is they run a pretty tight ship. I know a lot of myths are out there on the internet, and I've been on the phone with Jeremy Faison up there, who's a state rep, and a lot of this stuff is just folks that aren't there, and they're retweeting news stories that aren't accurate, and they're not in Tennessee even. The complaints seem to be coming from the North Carolina side, so I've been dealing with that all day myself.
Well, there's a lot of, and I have too, Tim, there's a lot of confusion, and obviously there's a tremendous amount of chaos when you see something descend upon your state that has been truly unprecedented. I'll start here. I heard a comment from the governor, I guess, yesterday or the day before, and it really struck home with me because someone asked Governor Bill Lee, why did we not prepare better for this? And Governor Lee's response was, how do you prepare for something that's never happened before? I'll ask you, based on what you've seen and based on your experience, I mean, have you ever seen anything like this in East Tennessee?
No, I've lived here my whole life, and it's primarily Upper East Tennessee. What happened, the rain wasn't so much here, it was in North Carolina. And then when it came down those mountains, it just, it snowballed. It's just gravity, and it had to go somewhere, and it went down through those hollers, and those hollers a lot of them happened to be in Tennessee, and it just washed out those poor country folks. And there is no way to prepare for something like this, and so we're doing what Tennesseans do best. We're taking care of our own. We're not waiting on the federal government, and that's why a lot of folks are getting taken care of that if they were in another state or another part of the country, they wouldn't be.
What do you have any idea about, your district? Sure. I think, help me understand the lines, because it's how much of your district was affected, Tim? I know you don't care. You worry about the entire state and really the entire region that has been affected, and I understand that. But just help me understand, like, from your district on up until the northeastern corridor, because you don't extend all the way up there.
Yeah, Granger County got some flooding, but primarily it's all Upper East, which is Diana Harshberger's district, up towards the border between us and North Carolina. Our district, thank God, was not affected. It was like a major rain event in some areas, but nothing compared to, pales in comparison to what happened in the upper east of Tennessee, because those people, like I said, communities are just wiped off the map.
We have an election coming up in November. There's some concern about whether or not North Carolina can get set up. I expect maybe there's a little bit of concern in the easternmost portion of Tennessee as to whether or not we can get that reset and make sure that these elections go off without a hitch. But you announced a couple of days ago, and I took notice of this, that you were kind of pausing anything that you were doing from an election standpoint because, just talk to us about your decision to do that.
Yeah, well, fundraising, I'm still knocking on doors on days I'm available to, but we quit fundraising because that's what these people have to have. We've got to send available funds up there. And I just think it's kind of disingenuous on my part to be out here asking people for money for something as peddling as a congressional election when people's lives are literally on the line. And groups like Samaritan's Purse and the East Tennessee Foundation, Salvation Army do such great work. And that $50 or $100 or that $5 could mean so much to them. It might be the difference between literally life and death for some people. And so I would urge people to be real cautious. If somebody's calling you, asking you for a donation, don't give it to them. Hang up. Don't engage them one bit. Don't give them your credit card number. Don't give them a second of your time, because they're dirt bags. And there's a hotter hell for people like that. And the known groups, like I said, Salvation Army, Samaritan's Purse, and places like that really are doing the Lord's work, that are taking care of people up there. Those are the ones I would give to. And I just,
Hey everybody, Dan Mattis with Nashville's Morning News and Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I was speaking to Dr.
Their hard-earned dollars when they could really go somewhere else. So, I'm still knocking on doors and going to events when I can, but I just felt like those priorities need to go elsewhere. And I hope, I have no way of judging how much money these groups got because of this, but I would assume they're doing pretty good, because I talked to some of them and they said that their small dollar donations from this area and around this area are way up. So that makes me feel good about that decision.
You mentioned that you've been in contact with the TEMA director and other officials. What are they saying that they need more than anything? I mean, what are you hearing, Tim, about the current necessity? I mean, clearly it's an odd thing that we're in kind of recovery mode, but we're also really in rescue mode for some people, because this is a mountainous, most of us have been over to East Tennessee. We get it. We understand the mountains of North Carolina, the Blue Ridge Mountains and all of that, but maybe for the few that haven't, just try to help us understand that the rescue continues even a week later.
Oh, 100%. There's people that are still trapped back up in those hollers up on the mountainside that can't get out. And roads are completely washed out. Driveways, everything is gone. They have no way to do it. And some of them are getting back there with mules and horses and four-wheel drive. And there's a lot of confusion, too, over the helicopters coming in and the refusal to allow them there. And like I said, a lot of that's in North Carolina. But part of the problem is that these helicopters they're bringing in are not equipped to carry in supplies. There might be one or two people. And so they go in there with two, they leave one on the ground, they take two out, they have to come back and get like maybe one of their pilots. They can't carry much more than a case of bottled water. And two, we're going to end up, I'm afraid, people that are well-meaning, we're going to end up having to rescue them that we're trying to rescue people. So I'm very cautious of being too critical of what I'm seeing on the internet. I saw one where a person was complaining about they couldn't get supplies, they had no electricity, and then in the back I saw their television was on. And so you got to watch out for the scammers. I don't know if this person was scamming or not, and they're replaying over and over and over news reports that are either inaccurate or not from our area, and they're easily disproved. And, I put my phone number out on the internet again. I said, I want specifics, not.
I did the same thing, Tim, not interrupt. I did the same thing. I put my cell number out and I said, anyone that has witnessed, and I just want to go right to it. The rumors are that TEMA, I'm not speaking about FEMA. FEMA, they could, screw up. Well, I'm talking about TEMA.
Will screw up.
FEMA screws everything up, and I don't trust FEMA as far as I can throw them, but whatever. But the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency and the people that run, I understand that it's a tough time. I understand there's a lot of chaos, and I understand that sometimes emotions are going to run high in these situations. But the rumor is that they're seizing and confiscating donations.
That is just not true. They have no apparatus to do that. And I keep saying, show me the specifics. Show me where this is happening, not some internet story that their third cousin told them. And, and I can't speak for the military. That's a different thing. But TEMA, they're Tennesseans, folks. They are not, they're not a bunch of folks that they brought in from Washington, D.C. These are usually native Tennesseans. These people worked up through the system. They understand this country, where we're from, and the type of people we are. They are not seizing people's funds. I don't know how they'd even go about doing that. Actually, I don't know what apparatus they use. All I got to tell you is I've talked to Jeremy Faison, who's the state rep up there, and Diane Harshbarger, who's the congresswoman. They are both day and night working, and they can't find any indications of this. That there's a video of a truck of an 18-wheeler turning around because the road's washed out, and somebody's saying, "Well, they're being forced to go back." Well, they're being forced to go back because there's no road. They can't. They don't.
Right.
They're not capable of crossing a riverbed or a washed-out bridge. And the problem with that is that good-hearted volunteers are sending stuff up there, and they don't know where to go, and they want to do something, and they're frustrated. And then when they see that, and then they got somebody up there, sending people up there that don't know the terrain or where they're supposed to be, and they have to block a road, that causes a complete foul up in the distribution of goods. And, early on, I got with the Hand family over here. Ray and Lucy are dear friends. They own the Anheuser-Busch Budweiser. They'd already had cans of water on the road, bottled water, and they were delivering it up there. And they went through the proper process. They got to the people, and they got to where it needed to be. And I would tell people, just take a breath. If you can't do anything, send a check to one of those groups that we said, not any of the scammers. I'm not too crazy about some of these national organizations, but that's me personally.
Mm-hmm.
But Samaritan's Purse, Salvation Army,
Mm-hmm.
that's if you're really frustrated, get a hold of them and say, I want to direct this money to this. And dadgummit, they'll do it, because they got a level of accountability that's better than most.
Well spoken. Congressman Tim Burchett, our guest. One more question unrelated to Hurricane Helene, and that is to deal with the longshoreman strike, which is creating – I don't know, you know how it goes, Tim. The first thing people worry about is gasoline. The second thing people worry about is toilet paper. And I think the combination of people wanting to buy toilet paper to give as a donation to some of these drop-off points for East Tennessee and Western North Carolina. In addition to that, people are worried about this strike that, the Biden administration seemed to not see coming, and they seem to be siding with union workers that were offered. It's my understanding this contract that they were offered was a 50% pay raise over the next 6 years, and they are holding out for 77% of a pay raise. Is that not accurate?
That is 100% accurate. And the head group, he lives in a multi-million-dollar mansion. He drives a Bentley. He makes about $900,000 a year, and he's saying how he's going to cause devastation across this country. And I'll tell you what, if he's still around and they're pulling this garbage when Trump's in the White House, there'll be a new head of that union. I can tell you that, because remember what Reagan did to the air traffic controllers, tried to shut the country down, and here we are in the middle of a natural disaster. They are tone deaf to the room, and so is Kamala Harris in this White House by saying they're not going to intervene. What the hell are they thinking? There are people suffering right now. Put your union allegiance aside. Be a human being for once. And this penance of $750 when we've given $200 billion to Ukraine. We put over $1 billion into illegals in this country. And Mayorkas comes back and I voted against FEMA this last time because of this nonsense and all this garbage they're doing. And now the same people that are mad at me about that are coming back saying, I can't believe they gave them $1 billion. Why can't you do something about it? I said, well, more people would vote to shut their ass down. Excuse my language. I've had 2 Mountain Dews this morning and a cup of coffee.
I like it. But I like the passion,
Tim. If they would vote to shut them down and bring them to the table, we'd have a different situation. President Trump called me last Tuesday, and we had a very nice long conversation about Tennessee and how much he loves Tennessee and how well we're doing over here, and what was prior to this national calamity up in Upper East and North Carolina and Georgia. But he talked to me about the efficiencies in government and how that we've got to get somebody, and he was talking about working with Elon to do that stuff. And we've got to have that commitment. We've got to have the commitment to shut these organizations down and rebuild them, because we're not going to reconstruct them from within, because they are rotten to the core.
You're right.
We've got to straighten this stuff out.
The inmates are running the asylum in many of these institutions. I got to leave it there, Tim.
So.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for what you're doing for your district and the rest of East Tennessee, the rest of Tennessee. We'll talk to you again soon, my friend.
Thanks, brother.
All right, take care. There's Congressman Tim Burchett. Back in a moment on Super Talk. You know, I really, truly am still in the afterglow of the incredible event that we had the other night, a debate watch party at Hop Springs, and our primary sponsor was the wonderful Glock store. They gave away so many wonderful items, those incredible mugs with the AR-15 handles on the mugs. They're pretty cool. If you've not seen these things, you can go to glockstore.com and find them, and you can get a $10 discount right now if you go over there and purchase one. Secondarily, they gave away, oh my gosh, shooting range sessions and a Glock 43X, did Glock Store. What about that? Over 300 people entered. We had about 500 people at the event, brought to you by the Glock Store, and we just thank those guys for everything that they not only do for us, but everything they do for their community. Because as Lenny McGill said yesterday on our show, it's one thing to buy a gun, to own a gun, and certainly we want you to do that, but you need to train yourself as to how to use that gun to make sure that you know when, you know how, you know where, you know all the rules, and to make sure that you are proficient in what you are doing. It is a perishable skill, as Lenny mentioned. So get some training. Go to shoot270.com for more information on that. Go to glockstore.com on the retail side of things. And when you go out to buy guns, to buy ammo, to buy equipment, to buy accessories, whatever you need, there's only one that Matt Murphy will recommend, and it is the one and only Glock Store.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis with Nashville's Morning News and Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I was speaking to... Hey everybody, Dan Mandis with Nashville's Morning News and Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Once again, that is a 2-hour delay, 40 westbound because of an overturned truck in Dixon. The backup is almost 10 miles. We've got a Helene update coming up at 1 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I've already tracked my alternate route, Ken Weaver. Thank you very much.
Well, go Brother Murphy.
You got to go 100. Get 100 down to, I think it's Cedarville or Cedartown.
Yeah.
And then you cut over on 412.
Yeah, that's Highway 100, not 100 miles per hour.
Well, maybe both. Yeah, maybe. No, I won't. I can't go 100 miles an hour on the truck. You know why?
Why's that?
Won't let me go over 98.
Got a governor on it?
Yeah, but at 98 miles an hour, you have exceeded the recommended speed limit, and it like slows you down. What? I mean, the government, man, the government. Anyway, so we'll keep you up to date with traffic situation, and we'll keep you up to date with what's going on with Hurricane Helene. We'll talk with Jay St. Clair about the longshoreman strike. I think I have this correct, that they're currently making on average $39 an hour, and they're asking for a 77% raise over the next 6 years, which would take them to about $65 an hour. These are forklift operators. It's insane what they're asking. And the White House refuses to help management negotiate an outcome successfully in this situation. In the meantime, Americans suffer. We'll talk about it next with Jay St. Clair. Your questions as well on the Super Text line. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Again, that's a 2-hour delay westbound to 40 because of an overturned truck blocking the left lane in Dixon. That is backed up from mile marker 163 to mile marker 172, just shy of a 10-mile backup. Full forecast in 5 minutes. Hurricane Helene update.
The number of dead from Hurricane Helene now tops at least 200 people. Georgia adding 8 more deaths and North Carolina confirming 3 more. Search and rescue operations with teams from across the U.S. are still underway today in the mountains around Asheville, North Carolina. That area bore the worst of the storm. Helene, now the deadliest mainland hurricane since Katrina in 2005.
That's Alex Stone reporting. Tennessee Department of Health confirming 11 deaths. And Congressman Tim Burchett on WTN's Matt Murphy show moments ago weighed in on rumors that TEMA is seizing donations for Tennessee victims.
That is just not true. They have no apparatus to do that. And I keep saying, show me the specifics. Show me where this is happening, not some internet story that their third cousin told them. And, and I can't speak for the military. That's a different thing. But TEMA, they're Tennesseans, folks.
President Biden today visits Florida and Georgia. Here's Selena Wang.
Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas said that they only have enough funds to help the now, and that if there are other hurricanes this season, that they need more money. FEMA needs more resources. So President Biden has said that he may call Congress back to Washington for a special session to pass more funding. But the federal government has made clear that they are committed to helping in all of these immediate needs, but of course that they're also there in the long term.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis dealing with hurricane response and the dock workers strike. Here's what he told reporters this morning he is doing to try to lessen the blow if there's an extended work stoppage in the Gulf.
At my direction, the Florida National Guard and Florida State Guard will be deployed to critical ports affected to maintain order and, if possible, resume operations, which would otherwise be shut down during this interruption.
Now, the nation's now 3 days into this dock worker strike. Both sides say they remain at an impasse. 100,000 new parents in the UK have agreed to have their baby's genetic code analyzed in an attempt to find and treat more rare diseases more quickly. Here's Sherry Preston.
There were signs up in doctors' offices across England asking parents-to-be if they wanted their new baby's entire genetic code analyzed in hopes of doing so could detect rare diseases more quickly. 100,000 families have signed up. The screening will go beyond the traditional heel prick for newborns that detects 9 rare conditions. The full genetic coding could help doctors spot as many as 200 rare diseases in children.
That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy, and this is hour number 2 of the Matt Murphy Radio Show. 107, good afternoon. Hope you're doing well on this Thursday, October 3, 2024. Sammy's in control of the experience, making sure that everything that comes out of our speaker sounds as good as humanly possible. For those one or two of you that actually care about Bell K, he's here. Don't worry. Everything's fine. Sammy is training with us, making sure that she is proficient in operating the board and everything that goes along with that. And there's a lot of things you got the Super Talk TV thing, you got phone calls, you got a lot of things going on. And how you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good, but we did just get a phone call asking about Bill, making sure that he's okay. He is perfectly fine.
Yeah, he's right over there.
Promise he's okay.
He's right over there.
He's just in the other room, making sure that I can. He's tested me to make sure I can do it on my own, which I love.
You know
he is right there. Just
you know what he's doing right now?
What is he doing right now?
I'm a little annoyed, and I don't mind talking about this because he's not listening to us. He's watching videos about fighter planes. That's what he's doing right now.
That's pretty interesting, though. But you would think he was listening to what we were doing.
Or, I don't know. Who
knows?
I don't know. Maybe thinking about ways to make the show better. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know.
I will say he does usually have the promo picked up by the time the show's done. So I think he's listening on the side.
You know what I think he ought to be doing? If I were him, he ought to be applying to be a longshoreman off the coast of the Gulf of Mexico or something. Because I know we don't pay them $39 an hour, not anywhere close. But that's apparently what they're getting on average, the longshoremen are. Now, I'm not here tomorrow. Cameron Smith's in for me tomorrow. Now, I know that people ding me for taking Fridays off, and I've taken a couple of them off, and I admit that. But this is the last one until, obviously, this is the last day off for me until 2 days off for Thanksgiving. So indulge me, if you will. Thank you so much for indulging me. So I'll be off tomorrow, and Cameron Smith in tomorrow. So when we don't have Fry J on Friday, we pretend that it's First Amendment Freestyle Friday on Thursday, and we have Fry J on Thursday. So why don't we go ahead and do that right now? And we're going to do that right now. We're going to do that presently because I like the idea of doing a Fry J segment on Thursday. It's my favorite thing to do when I'm off on Fridays. And Sammy, there we go. There we go. You see, I was trying to help you. I was doing my best.
It helps when you have the right hotkey pulled up.
I was doing my best. I was working it. All right, so get your legal questions in because he is our legal correspondent, my life consultant, my best buddy, my gambling partner. And occasionally we go out on the golf course and act like we're competitive people and see who can shoot over 100. His name is Jay St. Clair, and he joins us on this Thursday, Pretend It's Friday. Hello, Jay.
Hey, Matt.
Jay, I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
Matt, if I were any better, I would be Bobby McGee.
Bobby McGee?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're doing there.
It would be me and Bobby McGee.
I see what you're... Windshield wipers clapping time. What a great song. What a great
man. What a great songwriter. And I'm sure y'all talked about it already. And I got real interested in him a few years ago. We talked about him a lot. Fascinating person, man.
So... we did talk about, and obviously Jay is referencing the loss of Chris Christopherson. I did not give you proper, they call it an HTJ in social media, a hat tip. Mm-hmm. And I did not tip my hat to you, and I'll do it publicly now because you first posted that clip, and I played it on the show, of Chris Christopherson talking about his conversion moment and giving his heart and his life to Jesus Christ, and it is very powerful.
And so genuine, right? I mean, somebody commented on social media that you could tell he's a little hesitant to talk about it, which makes it all the more genuine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, the Lord works in mysterious ways, man.
Yeah, and said he didn't, and if you missed it, you can find it on Jay's social media, on Twitter. You can find it on mine as well, but it's Christopher's. And you're right. It's like, just like he didn't know why his hand went up.
Right.
It's like he doesn't know why he feels so compelled to tell the story, but he just kind of kept telling the story, and I'm glad he did. I'm glad
You
he
know,
did.
you ought to see the whole original thing. It was on, I forgot the guy's name, but it was on the CMT.
Ralph Emery. Ralph
Yeah,
Emery.
Ralph Emery.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, they were somewhere. I think they were Tennessee Tech, doing a charity thing. I think for Dottie West. He tells the whole story, and it's just fascinating. I think maybe Tech or Tullahoma, somewhere like that. And then it was Saturday night, so they went up Sunday morning and went to church. And the preacher, I'm forgetting the details now, but he was the son of somebody famous. I think a country music star. So yeah, it's a remarkable thing, and it happened. It's real. There's no doubt about it. And he was a Rhodes Scholar.
Mm-hmm.
Man, do you know how hard it is to become a Rhodes Scholar?
I don't, but I know it's hard.
It's hard.
Well, and helicopter pilot, and was in some form of the military. I don't know exactly what, and the old line, the old story that runs around these parts is that he landed his helicopter outside of Johnny Cash's house in Hendersonville to give him the lyrics to, I think it was Sunday Morning Coming Down.
Yeah, Sunday Morning Coming Down. He was gonna make sure Johnny Cash got that song.
Well, he got it. Well, and I know we got more things to talk about, but I just want to say this: if you don't understand the lyricist that Chris Christopherson was, my favorite, Why Me Lord, me and Bobby McGee. There's a lot of them, but I have seen the morning burning golden on the mountain in the skies.
You told me you saw something. Charlie Pride was talking.
Oh, he said he's Shakespeare, and he said it was Ken Burns' country music documentary, and Charlie Pride, they were just talking to him, and they asked him about Chris Christopherson, and he just looked at the camera and said, "I have seen the morning burning golden on the mountain in the skies, aching with the feeling of a freedom of an eagle when she flies, turning on the world the way she smiled upon my soul as I lay dying, healing as the colors in the sunshine and the shadows in her eyes." And he goes, if that doesn't make you feel something, you ain't living. It's true. It's true. Lived a great life. And the last of the highwaymen, Jay, we got Willie left, and the rest of them are gone.
Who would have guessed
that Willie would be the last man up?
Willie Murphy.
Well, all of those fellas ran pretty hard. So, but we got Willie left at the age of 91. Jay, let's. This is kind of your wheelhouse, right? I mean, you have been a part of these types of contract negotiations. I mean, maybe nothing quite this scale, but I don't want to speak short here. But
same concept.
I mean, you've been a part of these types of contract negotiations, correct?
Absolutely. And I teach a law school class about it. So, when I say I'm often wrong and never in doubt, I'm not going to be wrong
about this one. So,
get this one right.
So what in the world is going on?
So let's look at it from 50,000 feet. I always like to start there. In the private sector, it's different than public sector. We can talk about that if we want to, like when Reagan fired all the air traffic controllers. But in the private sector, employees have a right to form a union, and these longshoremen have been in unions for decades. And they enter contracts with the companies, union contracts, and they run out every so often. I think the last contract was 6 years long, and so now they come to the end of the contract. It's time to negotiate a new contract. And they've been negotiating, and they could not come to terms. They were making demands the companies were not willing to meet. And so when the contract expired, they exercised their right, statutory right, to go on strike. And I think everybody knows what a strike is. You just withhold your labor. You just don't go to work. And they're doing that to put economic pressure on the company, Matt. They are doing that to hurt the companies financially. There's no question that's why they're doing that. And in fact, in the law, in this area of the law, we talk about that as being an economic weapon. That's what we call them, economic weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And the company, in return, they have the right to replace them. They can replace them with temporary workers, or they can replace them with permanent workers. And that's just the way it's set up. They just have to go at it and kind of free market. And then, they either work something out or they don't. Why here? Were they not able to work things out? I think it's a couple of reasons. Wait a minute. I think my Secretary of Homeland Security just sounded in the
Uh-oh.
I can move.
Well, you got to watch it. You got to watch the Homeland, Jay. Don't be like Joe Biden and leave the store unminded.
So I think this, man, it's mostly about automation, right? They're beginning to develop technology where they can do this incredibly hard, heavy job on the shores with, let's just say, robots or with automation. You know, you go into McDonald's now, and there's already some automation there. A kiosk takes over. It's a wave of the future, and there's lots of reasons that makes sense for business. Lots of reasons. And my guess is these companies could save millions, if not billions, if they could automate these operations on these docks. Well, the employees don't like that. One of the cornerstones of union thinking is we're going to save our jobs. These are union jobs. We're not going to let these jobs go. So, yeah, they're fighting about wages and benefits, but I think the real sticking point here, Matt, is this automation, because over time they could lose thousands of jobs. And so the union wants in the contract that the company is prohibited from automating most of the jobs on the docks. And the companies just aren't willing to agree to that, man, because that would cost them a lot of money.
Right. I mean, and look, I'm not. I need more information before I, get firmly into one camp or another. But what you're saying, as you were talking, Jay, it reminded me of. I am certain that had the buggy manufacturers had a union, that they would be really frustrated with the movement toward automobiles. I mean, right. I mean, sometimes, the status quo is the enemy. It's the enemy of forward progress.
Absolutely great. It's a perfect analogy.
And they wanted to keep with horse and buggies. And we're like, no, we're going to do this horseless deal. Or maybe, horse breeders is another one. Well, the horse breeders got screwed in that whole automobile thing back in the day, right? So
perfect analogy. That's exactly what's going on here. It's exactly perfect analogy.
So tell me where the government fits into all of this, because we've heard of this. What is it called? Howley. Well,
it's kind of a cooling off period.
Yeah, the 90-day, the cooling off thing. So, and a lot of people over the last couple of days, and I've held off making any comment about it till I get you, right? Because I'm like, hey, look, I've learned in 51 years. I didn't know this when we first met. I got right in there and started talking, but I've learned to get out of the way when there's a smarter person on a subject than me. Yep. And so I'm out of the way on this. But a lot of people are saying, well, Reagan and the air traffic control, and he told them to get back to work. They're all fired. Why can't we do that here with longshoremen?
Yep. No, I figured that would come up, and that's why I made the point earlier about public versus private sector. Public unions are different, man. Totally different. Well, I thought she'd settle down, but apparently another.
Watch out! You got to watch it. Tell everybody who you're direct. Tell everybody. Sammy over there on the board wants to know who is your Secretary of Homeland Security. She wants to know.
That is Olivia, my German Shepherd.
and I bet she's got a ball. I bet she's got a ball in her mouth right now, trying to get you to throw.
No. She's on DEFCON 5 right now. Something's going on.
Squirrel. Probably a squirrel.
No, he's a possum.
All right. Sammy tells me it's time. She said, with that in mind, it's time for a break. So Jay's with us. We're going to continue to break down this longshoreman strike. Jason's got a question about it. And if you have any questions for Jason and Claire about this or any other subject, anything legal or otherwise, 615-737-9986, either via the phone or the super text line, and we'll get to him. It's Friday on Thursday on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief. You hear me talking about them often. Let's remind you of this. Not only am I a spokesperson for the Dr. Gill Center, I'm also a client. I go into the Dr. Gill Center. I visit with him, and Dr. Gill and his team of Dr. Wendy, Dr. Dominic, Dr. V, and the rest of the team, they have collectively over 100 years experience in the industry of chiropractic care. They've been helping get people back to a pain-free life for over 30 years now, and you can be the next person. The Dr. Gill Center understands this, that you want to get to pain-free living without having to pop pills, without having to shoot up with needles to block pain, and without the consideration for surgery. And that should be the right way to do it. And they do it every single day at the Dr. Gill Center. They've done it for me. They eliminated my neck pain. I'm able to go play bad golf. I play bad golf, but they get me back out on the golf course. Thank you to the Dr. Gill Center. I encourage you to give them a call. Schedule that appointment today. For less than $50, they'll come in. They'll give you your appointment. They'll give you an examination and a consultation, take some x-rays, and then your first treatment right there during your first visit. It's the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief. 615-882-4838, 882-4838.
All right, still got about a 2-hour delay if you are westbound to 40 in Dixon. You've got one lane blocked by an overturned tractor-trailer rig there. And, of course, we got the top stories coming up at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Ken Weaver. 24 minutes after the hour, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Do you need me to get him to leave? Is he bothering you, Sammy? Is that long-haired hippie freak in the... I mean, who is that? I haven't seen him in so long. Headless Bell has made an appearance on the show. That's nice. You finish your fighter pilot videos?
I used to work here.
People are worried about you.
What, Mandus?
No, everybody. I mean, tell them, Sammy. People are calling up asking if you're okay. People are texting me asking if you're okay, and I'm like, are we talking holistically or I mean, because.
Just as a general rule of thumb?
Yeah, as a general rule of thumb, Bell is not okay.
No, not at all.
But he's no different than he is every day.
Well, no, I've been training Sammy, and
That's
she's,
right.
Kind of in that phase where I'm not in the room, so she has to think about it herself before she comes and asks me questions.
No, I love it. No, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job doing nothing over there watching fighter pilot videos.
That was not a fighter pilot video.
That's what I saw.
That was a government action video. Trying to find audio for the show.
About fighter pilots?
No, about government waste.
Oh, well, well, there's a lot of those going around, I'll tell you that. All right, Jay St. Clair is with us, and we got a lot of questions for Jay, and we'll get into those in just a moment. I've got to finish up my line of questioning on this longshoreman deal. So the automate, you feel like that's a big portion of this, and then there's a big ask going on. It's my understanding they were offered, I want to say 50% additional pay over the next 6 years, and they're holding out for 77%. But you feel like, Jay, that is a component of it. Obviously, we all want more money in our jobs, but do you feel like the main sticking point is this issue of automation?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that in my mind, man. No question about it.
So if we got
the question about why not just fire them like Reagan did the air
right.
traffic control. Well, it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. The air traffic controllers were public employees. Public unions are very different. They're governed by different laws, and even each industry can be different. The law that allows them to have a union makes it illegal for them to strike. They did not have a legal right to strike, the air traffic controllers. They were breaking the law when they struck, and that's what allowed President Reagan to fire them. It'd be like, and this is different state to state, city to city, but policemen in some places have the right to unionize. I don't think they do in Tennessee. I know in Alabama. But in places where they unionize, the police ought not to be able to go on strike, man. And same thing with firefighters, right? I mean, you just,
you can't do it. Now, if you're a garbage worker, that's a little bit different, right?
Yeah, that's right. But here you can replace them, and I guarantee you right now they are doing what they can to get these jobs staffed. You know, some by managers and supervisors, they can work. And, you know, then they could bring in people. You would call them scabs. That's the way we talk in this area. So, they can try to operate. But in the meantime, it's just kind of a standoff. And they probably have a little bit of strike fund from the union, but we'll just see who can bleed the longest.
Right. And in the meantime, I mean, obviously, this is going to impact the supply chain in the United States of America. Now, I don't know that it impacts toilet paper, but look, Jay, but this is where it moves into my area of expertise, because if you see empty store shelves, people are going to start getting real concerned about the leadership in Washington, D.C. What, if anything, is their role then? If it's not the role for the president or whoever's in charge, I don't think it's Joe Biden, if it's not their role to step in and force people back to work, but they can act as kind of a mediator in this regard, can they not?
Yeah, they can. Yeah, in this industry and some others. There was another strike recently. I forgot.
The railroad. A couple of years ago, the railroad strike, wasn't it?
Yeah. And so when it's those kinds of interstate commerce, you know, the actual modes of interstate commerce, the law is a little bit different. And the government can step in. And actually, I think railroads, they can force a contract on the union. The government can, because railroads are so. I think,
and I looked this up yesterday, Jay. So I'm pretty confident that Congress passed some legislation pushing that down the road. I don't know if it was forced on them, but I think they made that happen in terms of getting the railroad people back to work.
Yeah, exactly. So they could do that here. And I think that the law gives them the ability to have like a cooling off period where they have to step back and go back to work for 30, 60, 90 days, something like that. Biden likes to call himself the biggest friend of organized labor ever in the history of the country, and he may be right about that now. And so he does not want to undermine the union's bargaining power in this. The union has a lot of bargaining power in this, a lot, because they have almost a monopoly, Matt. They certainly have a monopoly on the East Coast. And that's 55% of the shipping into the country. I mean, they're kind of the only game in town. And so they have a lot of power. They have a lot of leverage to get the company to accede to their demands. And if Biden were to step in and interfere with that, that undermines the power of the union. And I just don't see Biden doing that, because that's one of his biggest constituencies. So, yeah, he could do something to turn down the temperature, but I don't think he will. And you could say it's for political reasons. That, I mean, he's supporting his supporters.
Well, I think this is an instant. I would say this is, for me, from a political standpoint, I agree with you, everything you say. And I think that Americans might feel a little short-term pain, but I think out of that we get long-term gain, because I think it's going to whiplash on the Biden people and Harris by extension if that's the way he plays this thing. So
no, I was just about to say the same thing. That may be a miscalculation. That may be like when everybody was sitting around saying, "Hey, I've got a great idea. Let's go arrest Trump." on all these trumped up charges. What are you going to trial?
They'll never, Jay. They'll never nominate him if we arrest him.
Absolutely, this will end it right there.
All right, hold on. By the way, Jay, before we have to go to break, because Ken Weaver's waiting. I love our listening audience, and someone just hold on. Dadgummit, I lost it. Sally wrote in, and here it is. Sally says, and this is actually to Sammy, who's running the show right now. Jay, Sally says, Sammy, and I apologize if your name is spelled incorrectly, but you need to know this. If the question comes up, the answer is a crayon and $400. That's correct. We'll be back in a moment. And that's if the question comes up.
A crown and $400.
A crayon.
A crayon. Sorry. I have a speech problem ever since I was little. It's a crayon, and $400.
It's a tough one to say. That's the answer. Ken Weaver's next with the news.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we've still got a 2-hour delay going westbound on 40. About 42 miles west of Nashville in Dixon, you've got an overturned truck, and that is blocking the left lane of 40 westbound. It's a 9-mile backup from exit 63 to exit 172. Full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Hurricane Helene-related deaths have risen to at least 200 across Tennessee, Florida, the Carolinas, and Georgia. Got at least 11 fatalities so far here in East Tennessee. 2nd District Congressman Tim Burchett telling WTN's Matt Murphy show he's lived there all his life and never experienced anything like it.
The rain wasn't so much here. It was in North Carolina. And then when it came down those mountains, it just, it snowballed. It's just gravity, and it had to go somewhere, and it went down through those hollers. And those hollers a lot of them happened to be in Tennessee, and it just washed out those poor country folks. And there is no way to prepare for something like this.
Flags at the state capitol at half staff for the flood victims. In Memphis, the jury has begun deliberation in the Tyre Nichols case. 3 black former Memphis police officers facing life in prison if convicted in Nichols' beating death. They have all pleaded not guilty. And in New Jersey this morning,
we're willing to take on the world if we have to.
That is the dock workers union leader saying there's no end in sight to the now 3-day-old dock workers strike if they don't get more money and if they're assured their jobs won't be lost to automation. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says he's moving National Guard troops to the Gulf ports in case this thing drags on.
This is something that would have significant impacts on the nation's economy anyways. But to have this happen in a way that could negatively impact people that are reeling from a Category 4 hurricane, that is just simply unacceptable.
That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN in the midst of Fry Jay on Thursday. Jay St. Clair with us, and we'll get to your questions and comments right now as we continue on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 1:39. First up is Jason in Indianapolis. Jason, you are on with Jay St. Clair. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Jay, logistically, to avoid the longshoremen, especially the boats that are going to port in the Gulf, could they not just go to a port in Mexico?
Yeah, they could. Absolutely, they could. I don't know. They have to clear customs.
I'm sure there's a customs thing, but that would avoid. They could avoid that port forever.
Well, yeah,
I don't know what the capacity is in Mexico, but you're right, and trust me, they're looking at all that now. They're probably trying to figure out how to get it over to the West Coast.
That's a long way around to the California and all those ports.
But sure, that's absolutely part of what they're planning, and I'm sure they've been thinking about this for a while. So just trying to get it in everywhere they can. But
yes, sir.
They have pretty much a monopoly over there.
I mean, yeah, there's aren't there, I'm pulling this figure out of somewhere in my brain, but like 30-something or 40 ports total.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what the amount is, but there's a lot of them that we're talking about.
Well, but just think of the geography. It's pretty much the entire East Coast. What is not included in it is just minimal. So it's the entire East Coast, and it goes all the way over to Mobile. I haven't heard about Pascagoula and the Mississippi part. That may be separate. But it's basically 98% of the docks on the eastern side of the United States. They've got a monopoly, and that's what gives them the power.
Jay, great comment, great thought as well as we continue getting through a few of these telephone calls. Jeff has a different type of question regarding open meetings laws for Jay St. Clair. Hello, Jeff. You're on with Jay.
Hi, Jay. Thanks for taking my question. It centers around, the rural towns around Tennessee. You have a small government. You have commissioners or aldermen, 5 to 7 people. And what would constitute the open meeting violation concerning how many of those people had a discussion, and also what topics were discussed, being actionable items that are already on an agenda or items that are just in pre-planning? Where's that line drawn?
I'm thinking because I'm going to give you the right answer. It's a very gray area.
Mm-hmm.
They're not taking official action. For example, let's say you got a 5-member city council, and they're going to have a meeting tonight to talk about very important matters. Well, 2 of them get together at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to talk about it. All right. So how are you going to vote? What do you think? How are you going to vote? I don't think that violates open meeting law.
I don't think it does either.
Well, let's say 3 of them do it. And they just have that discussion. And what are you going to do? And but they're not taking official action. I think that where I would draw the line if I were a judge is if they're taking official action. Well, what does that mean? Well, they get together before the city council meeting, and let's say Jason, Matt, and I were on city council. We get together at 3 o'clock at the McDonald's. All have senior coffee. I make Matt drink senior coffee. And then we talk about it, and we say, okay, here's what we're going to do. All right, we're all in agreement? Yes, we're in agreement. We'll all vote in favor of it. That just violated the open meeting law because there a decision was made. So if you accept where I'm going, then it's the difference between discussion and decision. Well, you'll never actually nail that down. Well, did y'all make a decision? Oh, no, we're just talking about it.
I want to say that there are some local ordinances, Jay, and I could be. I think I'm right in this. I feel like I'm right enough to even mention it. That there are some states that enforce sunshine laws that don't allow those gatherings if there's enough to create a quorum.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's not a one-size-fits
right.
thing.
But yeah, the spirit of it. I mean, you're exactly right. Is that you can't take any official act? Well, is getting together for dinner and talking about it an official act? Right. Jeff, does that hit on your question?
Well, yes, but also, what about a topic that's just being openly discussed, but it's not on an agenda, is not up for a vote? You can discuss that all day long with whoever, correct?
Well, sure. Absolutely.
So I have by the way, I have, Jeff, a county commissioner on with me, on text with me, and he's telling me that in Tennessee, that the rules are that you can talk about how, and Jay, you've explained it exactly right. You can talk about how you're going to vote, but you can't bargain or negotiate for votes.
Right. Yeah, well, that's just what I said.
Yeah, so, you said exactly right.
That was correct, and if it's something
off and on, but never.
Well, Jeff, I hope that hits around some of your question. I feel like that's going to go ahead, Jeff.
Jeff, are you still there?
No, he's gone. I got to cut him loose.
Well, see, I started off thinking that he was a constituent, but there at the end, he got me thinking he's a city councilman.
That's true.
I had to claim for the wrong team.
I think it's right. You're right on target. That when you start horse trading for votes, that's when you're getting into an arena where people want that to be in front of the public. Stephen is next with a question out of Paris, Tennessee. Hello. Stephen, it just says Paris. I'm going to assume that it's Paris, Tennessee.
Bonjour. Bonjour.
Bonjour there, Stephen.
Yeah, bonjour. Yeah, it's French fries. Hey, question for Jay. Question for Jay. I'm a truck driver, and I know a lot about the logistics and, all this stuff coming over on these cargo ships. It's not just the cargo containers themselves. There's BOLs, bills that come with everything that pretty much has the destination where it's all going. Everything's already bought and paid for in our country. So I don't know about the contract part. Like, since their contract is over and they're holding this stuff, is it legal to go around them and say, transport them to smaller cargo vessels that can come a little bit closer inland to get them to the rail yards, to get them on rail, or any kind of other idea that somebody could come up with? Would that be illegal to do that, just to go around them?
I think they could do that. If I were running the business, what I would do is get in touch with the customer. Well, the customer doesn't want their stuff just sitting out there in the docks, right? And so they say, and I get it, the bill of lading may have specified, routing instructions. But if they say to them, look, we got a strike here. What we're going to do is take your stuff, put it over here on this boat, and then we're going to unload it to Mexico and bring it up through there. Are you okay with that? I wouldn't just do it. I would be in touch with the customer.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying?
One more question. Yeah, I got you. One more question. Or either up the Mississippi. I know we got a big rail yard right in Memphis there too that goes a lot all through the South too. There's all kind of little places. But another thing, would it be legal for somebody, like just as an example, Elon Musk or somebody, one of these big tycoons, to just go in and buy that whole operation and put people in there, bring in new people and just kind of take it over or whatever themselves?
No, it wouldn't, because if he buys it and the business stays substantially the same, that he assumes the union.
Okay.
So it doesn't automatically dissolve the union?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Makes sense.
They're called a successor in interest.
Ooh, that sounds like fancy. That sounds like a $200 phrase there.
Oh, man, we have $547.
I just got this info, and our listeners are so smart. Apparently, Fox News is reporting that they're not going to the West Coast, Jay, because the union on the West Coast is now saying that they will not unload any diverted ships.
Got it.
So, I mean, and that makes sense. Unions are going to protect their fellow union brethren. A lot of interest in this. Let's get to Mike in Jolton. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing okay. I understand the difference between public and the government-run sector, like with the air traffic controllers, but this is really frustrating. since this man just come right out and said, he's going to cripple the economy, I know people try to think of ways around it, but there's no way let's say it goes on for a while and you start having shortages, let's say in life-saving medicines. I mean, could something be done then? Because this is purposeful. You understand what I'm saying? Some way to hold him accountable for his words.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying. Yes, something can be done about it. Congress can pass a law. All of these rights are creatures of statutes. All Congress would have to do is pass a statute making this strike illegal. They have absolutely all the power that they need to do that. So, yes, there is a solution to that.
Well, and apparently this dude, yeah, and thank you, Mike, for the call. And I've got to scoot along. Apparently, this dude, his name is Harold Daggett, and it has the interviews that he's done. It has just really struck a chord with a lot of people. Jay, I don't know if you've seen some of these comments that he's making, but he's like, "We're going to cripple you." I mean, I guess you could make that case. He doesn't really give a crap. He doesn't seem to give a crap about the United States of America. But I mean, I guess that's not what he's paid to give a mess about, right?
I think he makes about $900,000 a year.
Drives a Bentley.
They posted a picture of a yacht in a line bus. Said, "Dang, I wish I had that." Richest man in the world.
Said, "Boy,
this is what they do, Matt. This is what they do. They got power, and he's got power. I mean, he just does. He's basically got a monopoly, and he's playing his hand, for all he can. But to his credit, he sees 20,000 jobs going away. Right? I mean, these cars are going to put the buggy makers and the horse farmers out of business.
Right.
And so to him, it is kind of
I would take a little more stock in that portion. I mean, for me, and I don't understand it as much as some, but I would take more stock in that portion of it if he wasn't also asking for a 77% raise, which seems completely unreasonable.
Let me tell you a real life story.
Sure. Yeah.
Folks, over in Florence, West Tennessee, people in that area, the TBA area, there used to be a large amount of aluminum manufacturing companies there, a lot, because of cheap TVA power. It'd be a ton of electricity. Reynolds Aluminum shut down a plant, and local people tried to buy the plant and keep it running, keep jobs. There's a local group of people, and when it was Reynolds union, they were making $30 an hour. You said benefits. The best the local people could do, man, and they scrimped and did everything they could. They came up with a contract, a total of $27 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I was involved in these negotiations, and we went to the union and said, no. They said, no, we're not taking a pay cut. If you don't get $30 an hour, we don't have to do. And we said, well, if you don't take this, we're shutting the plant down. They said, that's fine. Well, what are you going to do? We'll go flip burgers for $6 an hour. We ain't taking a pay cut. That is a true story, man. I was at the bargaining table. And there's just this sort of mentality. I don't know.
I couldn't do what you do, because that would just drive me. I know you have to keep your cool, and you do, but my goodness, that's just a different way of looking at the world.
Mindset. It's just a different mindset, man.
Yeah,
it's like Florida fans. I mean, you can think about it all you want, but you'll never understand. You can't reason yourself to get there.
John, we'll leave it on this, Jay. John from Lawrenceburg says, "Go Big Orange." I'm just passing on the information. All right.
I was just looking. Their history against Arkansas is interesting. I remember is Clint Sterner in 1998.
He said something about hog killing time. I didn't really understand that, but you probably will. Jay, I might see you sometime in the near future, and if I do,
I hope to see you real soon, buddy.
Yeah, we'll find some green in front of us. I'll talk to you soon, my friend. Take care.
Thank you, buddy.
There's Jay St. Clair. We got to go to a break. Back in a moment. Hey, friends, I've got some other friends I want to tell you about. Now, these folks have become friends since I started talking about U.S. Pest, and I absolutely love J.K., Erica, and what they do for their employees, what they do for their company, and what they do for their customers. They believe you treat your employees right, you do right by them, and they will do right by the customer, and it works, friends, and they love this country, and I love U.S. Pest, and they hate bugs, and I hate them too, and U.S. Pest wants to protect you from those nasties that want to come into your home, take advantage of your stuff. I mean, they're communist. All these little bugs, these insects, spiders, roaches, stink bugs, you know the type. And don't even get me started on the communist roaches and rather the rats and the mice. I mean, I'll tell you, they come in, they want to take your stuff and distribute it amongst themselves, and we need to stop all of that the American way through U.S. Pest. Go to uspest.com to find out about their full-service pest control, termite protection, crawl space services, and the like. uspest.com, or better yet, give them a call and schedule an appointment today. Free consultation, free pest inspection. They'll get the lay of the land, tell you what you need, what you don't need. U.S. Pest. The number, 615-590-1260. 590-1260. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to U.S. Pest.
2 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got a crash now, westbound 40. That is before you get to downtown Nashville. That is going to be east of downtown. It's westbound 40, and the right lane is blocked. Actually, it's not a crash. It's just a disabled vehicle. Now, there is a crash about 42 miles west of Nashville, and it has 40 westbound backed up almost 10 miles. That overturned truck blocking at least one lane of 40 there in Dixon. Full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. The number of dead from Hurricane Helene now tops at least 200 across several states, including Tennessee.
Hurricane Helene was the deadliest mainland hurricane since Katrina in 2005, and the number of those killed in Helene is still rising. Georgia adding 8 more victims found dead, North Carolina 3 more. At least 61 people were killed in the Asheville, North Carolina area, where today rescue operations are still underway from teams that have arrived from around the country. Alex Stone, ABC News.
11 confirmed dead here in Tennessee. 2nd District Congressman Tim Burchett telling WTN's Matt Murphy he's lived there all of his life and never experienced anything like it.
There's people that are still trapped back up in those hollers up on the mountainside that can't get out. And roads are completely washed out. Driveways, everything is gone. They have no way to do it. And some of them are getting back there with mules and horses and four-wheel drive.
President Biden goes to Florida and Georgia today to survey the damage and may call Congress back into session because funds are running out and may not be available if another hurricane were to hit. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is not shy about the timing of the dock workers' strike, now in its 3rd day with no end in sight, threatening economic hardship.
This is something that would have significant impacts on the nation's economy anyways, but to have this happen in a way that could negatively impact people that are reeling from a Category 4 hurricane, that is just simply unacceptable.
DeSantis signed an executive order today that sends National Guard and state troops to major ports to possibly resume operations that are otherwise shut down due to the strike. 100,000 new parents in the UK have agreed to have their infants' genetic codes analyzed for rare diseases. Here's Sherry Preston.
Newborn babies are routinely given a heel prick blood test that checks for 9 serious conditions, but there are many more potential rare diseases out there, and doctors are hoping new genetic screening will catch them earlier. England's National Health Service is recruiting 100,000 families who have agreed to let doctors test blood from their babies' umbilical cords. That could lead to detection of as many as 200 rare conditions early in a baby's life.
That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
All right, getting back to it, it is 2:07. Good afternoon. Matt Murphy and the Matt Murphy Radio Show continues until 3 o'clock. At 3, The Drive with Brian Wilson in progress. No me tomorrow. Cameron Smith in for me. Obviously, we've been focusing all week long on Hurricane Helene and the aftermath of said same. East Tennessee, absolutely ravaged by this storm. Western North Carolina, ravaged. Northern Georgia, ravaged by this storm. Did you see there's an image that's going around social media showing a satellite image of the lights, and you can see, you see the major metropolitan areas and where the lights are. You've seen these maps of the United States of America, and you see the light pollution. And there is a huge swath from the Big Bend in Florida up through the state of Georgia, and it curls over to the border of Tennessee and North Carolina, where there are no lights because power remains off. Intimately familiar with these and other matters involving the storm is our next guest. He is the director of the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency. Patrick Sheehan is his name, and he comes on to give us the latest as to what's going on. It's been an incredibly busy week for many of us in East Tennessee, and obviously Mr. Patrick Sheehan has been busy as well. Thank you for coming on with us, Director. How are you, sir?
Hey, Mr. Murphy, I'm doing well as can be expected. Thanks for having me.
Talk to us about where you are right now, and just give us kind of a 50,000-foot overview of where we are in East Tennessee right now.
Well, at this very moment right now, I'm in the State Emergency Operations Center here in Nashville. The governor is on the ground right now as we speak in Cocke County after having visited Greene County earlier today. He's been back and forth to East Tennessee. I've been there a number of times, and obviously we have lots of state employees and partners out there in East Tennessee helping to respond to and recover from this terrible, tragic disaster.
Well, I know that these natural disasters, obviously, they don't know where our state borders are. So, clearly this has impacted North Carolina as it has impacted East Tennessee. But give us a sense of what we know about loss of life, what we know about loss of property and roadway loss and that sort of thing. Just I know I'm asking a big question, but just from your perspective, where are we as we sit here on this Thursday?
So right now, the latest report that we have, and we follow a very judicious process in death reporting. We have 11 deaths that are attributed in Tennessee to this disaster. We know we're going to have more. They're finalizing their investigations now, but right now our official confirmed number of those tragically killed by this disaster is 11. That's the most important thing. The lives lost and the heartbreak that these families and these communities are suffering from that is first and foremost in our hearts and in our minds. On the state side, for transportation, 6 bridges are closed, 5 were totally destroyed. 48 sections of state-controlled routes are closed. 27 additional sections have been covered with mud or debris and have subsequently reopened. There are 400 TDOT employees out there right now. They've inspected 330 structures to make sure that we are opening roadways as quickly as possible. We have lots of humanitarian aid going on out right now. The Tennessee National Guard has more than 200 soldiers there doing a variety of missions, of course, airlift being a huge part of that. We have guardsmen helping with debris, guardsmen helping reach those that are hard to reach, to include airdropping supplies to those that are disconnected. 200 troopers are out there augmenting local law enforcement, state law enforcement. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation and other law enforcement agencies are out there as well, really just helping. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation is also leaning in with helping us figure out who's missing and then helping reconnect loved ones to their families to the extent we can, or sadly helping to communicate when we've discovered that we've lost someone else.
Tennessee is such a giving and caring place, and I know that you found that to be the case since you took over as director of the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency in 2016. And, immediately our thoughts go to how do we help our neighbors? How do we get out and do the best that we can to help recovery, even rescue, and then obviously to give as best we can. And I was talking to someone in the governor's office earlier today, Director, and they were, I'll use the word frustrated because it's the first one that comes to mind, that there was certain misinformation going out on social media platforms that was getting furthered and reposted regarding how TEMA operates and how you do your business with regard to donations and charitable collections. Can you just walk through some of that with us to make sure that we're not misinforming the public here?
Yeah, so we partner to the extent that we can with reputable, known nonprofit organizations and with the impacted communities to make sure that things and funds that are donated are as close to that community as possible. And, some of the misinformation you're talking about right now, and I really appreciate you helping amplify and getting the truth out there. TEMA and FEMA, none of us are out there confiscating donated supplies, foods, material, or money. Any reports of this are absolutely false. So, in Tennessee, as you touched on, we have overwhelming support and from our communities, from churches, and a lot of times those materials need to go someplace. So, we're working to make sure that there's a place for them to go. We partnered with Bristol Motor Speedway to create this Northeast Tennessee Disaster Resource Center. And so anyone that has donations that they want to get them there, we're creating a logistical staging area there, or a donations reception center to make sure that this overwhelming response that it can be managed. But we're doing that with nonprofit organizations in those communities, reputable organizations that are known to the communities, and with the local governments. And then we'll be making sure that every bit of that is either turned over to them when this is done, or more importantly, as quickly as possible, sent into those communities to get in the hands of these survivors.
Talking with Patrick Sheehan, he's the director of the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency, about the reaction, the response, and the ongoing recovery efforts. So, Patrick, I feel like where this gets born from, and you tell me if this is the sense that you get on the ground, that if I am bringing a truckload of donations to a particular location and maybe the roadway's washed out, or maybe there has already been a staging place for those donations to go. I feel like maybe there's a possibility of a miscommunication that leads to misinformation, because obviously sometimes you're going to direct people exactly where to take things, or take it from them in an effort to help them and then get them to the proper staging area. That's going on in East Tennessee, obviously.
Yeah, I don't think we're taking things from there, but certainly local and law enforcement on the ground, local responders, those that are in those communities, would be directing people
to where to go
that they know are taking. Yes, sir, where to go. So yeah, that's certainly happening.
All right. So just to ask directly on this, there's one big rumor going on. I'm sure you've seen it, the Davy Crockett High School thing in Washington County, that y'all have taken over the high school. To your knowledge, is that correct? Is that accurate?
I don't think so, and this is the first time I've heard that, Matt. So
just look it up. It's I'll read it to you. It says TEMA has arrived. All donations that have been given to local high school volunteers have been confiscated, starting with Davy Crockett High School. They took over all the volunteers in the schools in Washington County, and in order for anyone to give donations, TEMA makes them approve. I don't know. I don't even know what that means.
Me neither. I can just tell you, though, that is absolutely false. I don't have enough employees to do that kind of thing. So right. Absolutely false, Matt.
So you come in and you try to structure and organize the critical response, and you utilize local sheriffs, local police officers, local people within those communities that are friends and neighbors of the folks that need the most. Those are the kind of the boots on the ground for you. Is that a fair assessment?
That's typically how we try to operate. Obviously, this is a little more widespread, so we're trying to provide some overarching structure to help support these things so they don't get overwhelmed. Cott County, for instance, Monday morning, I think, asked for people to stop bringing things into Newport because they couldn't maneuver to do the things they needed to do to take care of their survivors. Those are the kinds of things we're just trying to avoid. Those are the kinds of things, when you've been doing disasters for a while, to expect and try to get ahead of.
So what is best practice for folks who want to continue to give right now? Obviously, there are certain portions of East Tennessee along the border of North Carolina that are I mean, I imagine that there are certain places and certain small pockets, communities, and little hamlets and villages that have not been fully explored with your team to make sure that everybody's okay. I mean, there's still rescue efforts going on, for goodness sake. So what are best practices for those who want to continue to give, and how can we best do that?
So the best thing, in my opinion, is to donate cash, because not all of these folks have a home right now. So giving them stuff isn't always helpful. You know, it also gives them ownership over what they need, you know, to recover. So it gives them the ability to make the decisions that they need to make as they, you know, go through this terrible part of recovering and rebuilding their lives. So cash, and we're not taking any cash donations. We are pushing all of those to charitable organizations. If you go to TEMA's website, the only thing we highlight are local charitable organizations that we know to be reputable. There are others out there I am sure that we haven't covered. I'm sure that there are some that are out there that are doing great work. We just don't know about them. So the ones on our page we know are good organizations that will make sure that those funds make it into the hands of the community and these disaster survivors.
As the head of the organization trying to respond to this, what I mean, specifically does your team need? Are you in need of anything from the citizens of the state of Tennessee?
So the one thing I'd highlight is, you know, there's a lot of outpouring of support right now. There's a lot of outpouring of donations. There's a lot of urge to rush to the scene and try to help. And in 1 week and in 2 weeks and in 3 months, around Christmas time, these folks are still going to need help. Mm-hmm. This time next year, these communities will still need an outpouring of support. And the best thing I could ask for, and not for me and my team, but for the people in Upper East Tennessee, is don't just let this urge to help dissipate. There is going to be a long-term need for them to have help. And donate to these reputable organizations that do work there, and find opportunities, because there'll be lots of opportunities to volunteer in meaningful ways for years to come in Upper East Tennessee.
Patrick, last question. There's been a lot of concern about the response or the lack of response from FEMA. I'm not asking to drive a wedge between TEMA and FEMA necessarily with this question, but I'm asking you what your observation has been. There are concerns that maybe the response has not been as robust as it perhaps could have been had we foreseen some of the possibilities of the damage done in East Tennessee and into North Carolina. What has your observation been?
You know, for me, Matt, Governor Lee's disaster declaration request was approved. Those resources are available now. I know more than 500 Tennesseans have already registered for aid that were in the impacted counties. And, you know, we're going to continue to make requests and coordinate with the federal government to make sure that we're supporting Tennesseans. And, you know, Matt, I really just want to emphasize our response is moving forward in full force. We are all in across the enterprise of state government, Governor Lee's administration, with making sure that we are supporting these communities and these Tennesseans in this hour of need.
I'm gonna slip one more in here, Patrick, and I promise this is the last one, but the one more is this. If there's someone listening to us right now, because we have folks that listen online and perhaps not in Middle Tennessee, but maybe toward the east, that are perhaps in the zone and they are in need, what is a best practice for them in terms of who do they reach out to? Is it a local church? Is it the local community center? Is it local sheriffs? Or is there another place or resource that they can reach out if they find themselves in need?
Their county emergency management agency, that EOC, which pulls together their local government, is looking for opportunities to know where they have problems and get aid.
Okay.
So that's their best place. If they know of a church, that's great. And I would say, too, to go back to donations, we've created an easy button where people can send physical donations to. If organizations have a partner parish or church and they're already working with them, it's okay for them to send that there too. It's when we have unsupported things going in the counties or in the communities where things can get messy. And Matt, if I could add just one more thing, there's another rumor I'd just like to address.
Please do.
So there's been some rumors about scams with FEMA or TEMA going door to door and asking for people's monetary donations or, asking for their personally identifiable information, their social security numbers. No TEMA or FEMA personnel will ever ask for money. If someone approaches you identifying themselves as FEMA or TEMA, please make sure they have an appropriate identification badge. They'll never ask for your account numbers. They'll never ask for your social security number. And if you do experience someone doing this, take their picture and call law enforcement immediately, because we want to make sure that those folks face the justice that they deserve for trying to hurt Tennesseans in this time of need.
Gosh, you brought this up, so I have one follow-up. So we heard a little about looting right at the beginning 5 or so days ago. I know that there was a group of 8 individuals that were arrested for looting. Have you heard about, and I know this is more of a law enforcement, I mean, well, you're part of this organizational structure, so I'll ask you, I mean, have you heard about that, any other instances of that in East Tennessee, or have we kind of tamped that down?
No, I think that's been the extent of it, Matt. So,
Good.
People pay attention, and that's another reason why we ask people to stay away from the disaster. It makes it easier to figure out who's doing good and who's not.
Patrick, thank you for your time today. We appreciate your service to the state, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Thanks so much, Matt.
All right,
really
take care. There's Patrick Sheehan, the director of the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency. 23 after the hour. We'll reflect on that, get your thoughts on it, 615-737-9986. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is your one-stop shop for all things men's health. Gentlemen, if you're concerned about your health, if you don't find the energy that you once had, is it sleep? I don't know. Is it a T-level issue? I don't know that either, but I know who does. I know who can find out, and that's Tennessee Men's Clinic. They do this day in and day out. They're qualified urologists are in Franklin. They also have a location since 2014 in Midtown, and they're ready to serve you. So what is it, gentlemen? Are you just going to pretend this isn't going on in your life? You pretend that that intimacy that you once had, that you don't have anymore, isn't happening? Or are you going to handle it? Let's deal with it, men, by going to the Tennessee Men's Clinic and get this past us. Tennessee Men's Clinic can assist you. They have multiple different ways to assist in your energy levels, and that includes your bedroom activities. Give them a call at 615-208-9090, 615-208-9090, or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Tennessee Men's Clinic. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thanks again to Patrick Sheehan, director of the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency. I did not ask him about helicopters. Most of what I've seen regarding helicopters and the inability to get helicopters onto property or into areas affected by the storm, that's happening over in North Carolina. And I was trying to focus centrally on eastern Tennessee. But obviously, the one question I wish I had asked, and I did not, was about I-40. But we are being told, and that might be a question better asked to Butch Eli, who is the director of the Tennessee Department of Transportation. We'll get him on next week. I've spoken to Butch in the past, and we'll try to do that again, asking the obvious question, when are these major roadways, particularly our interstate roads, expected to be opened up again? The reports that I'm seeing today are that I-40, and that is, right after you get through Knoxville and you see the split, and there's 81 that kind of goes north, and 40 at that point goes almost south, certainly southeast. That area between the split and Asheville is closed, and the reports we're hearing would be that it is closed until March at least, and that might extend even further than that, depending on their ability to get back open. So there's also a section of 26 that remains closed between Asheville and Johnson City or Kingsport, Bristol area, 26 between like Bristol and Asheville. And then, as I mentioned, the area on 40 between the split with 81 and Asheville is still, I'm just looking at the map now, and it still remains closed. A lot of concern about an inability for helicopter pilots to go into some of these affected regions, inability for others to go into the affected regions. It's all I can tell you is this. I'm not, you'll never find me defending FEMA, ever. I'm not defending FEMA. I have some very strong feelings about our dependence on FEMA and how we ought to be doing things. And maybe that's another conversation for another day, because I understand that people are listening to this show right now that are still suffering from the ravages of Hurricane Helene, and they'll take any opportunity to get assistance that they can get. It is a damn shame. I'll say this. It is a damn shame that we spent/wasted so much money on illegal alien activity over the last year that money cannot go to affected Americans right now. We do know that Alejandro Mayorkas, the Homeland Security Secretary, was complaining about a lack of money yesterday, complaining about a lack of money after spending more than $1 billion on services for illegal aliens in this country over the past year. And now he's saying that he has insufficient money to last through the hurricane season. Well, why do you think that is, buddy? You printed all that money and then wasted it on spent it on illegal aliens, and now you're complaining that you don't have enough money to spend on the American people. So you're never going to get me defending FEMA. I'm not defending FEMA. I will defend the truth. And the fact of the matter is that there may be instances where, we heard of an instance where there was a local fire chief that prevented a helicopter pilot from going back and assisting an individual and getting them out of an area. I don't know the totality of those circumstances, but it feels like that's wrong. We do know that Asheville police were preventing, Asheville, North Carolina now, not in Tennessee, they were preventing business owners from going back to their businesses and collecting things that they wanted to try to salvage from their businesses. They were being told they couldn't do that for a period of time. I don't know if that continues today, but that was happening. So I fully understand and am aware that there are instances where authority figures in uniform are preventing individuals from getting back to their property or doing things that might provide relief or assistance to other people. I do not believe that these are widespread or systemic, and I do not believe that they come from TEMA, certainly. Now, whatever FEMA's doing, I don't know. FEMA doesn't seem to be, well, I won't say they're doing a lot because I'm not there. I know that the people that are on the ground, these organizational structures from Washington, D.C. typically don't really do anything but try to take control of a situation, and they make things worse. The people on the ground are the people that live there. The people on the ground are your neighbors, and those people need to have an ability to help one another. And I just want to get the maximum people, maximum assistance as best we can. It's 31 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we've got a brand new crash to report. Brand new problem in traffic, if you will. It is affecting the eastbound South Loop downtown. You've got the right two lanes blocked at DeMunbrian Street. Also, about 42 miles west of Nashville, going west on 40. That is now just a 26-minute delay. That is the left lane blocked in Dixon by an overturned truck. The death toll from Hurricane Helene is now at least 200 in Tennessee, Florida, the Carolinas, and Georgia. 11 confirmed in East Tennessee, where 2nd District Congressman Tim Burchett tells WTN's Matt Murphy Show there are people trying to scam well-meaning people by claiming to be raising money for them.
Be real cautious. If somebody's calling you, asking you for a donation, don't give it to them. Hang up. Don't engage them one bit. Don't give them your credit card number. Don't give them a second of your time, because they're dirt bags. And there's a hotter hell for people like that.
Burchett says internet rumors that TEMA and FEMA are confiscating donations are false. And the strike by more than 40,000 dock workers in ports along the East Coast and Gulf of Mexico now on a third day, no sign of ending. Ahead of President Biden's arrival to survey hurricane damage, Governor Ron DeSantis called on the Biden administration to step in to end this strike affecting major ports around the state.
Biden-Harris has a responsibility to stand up for the storm victims, stand up for the people who've had their homes damaged or who've lost their homes, and make sure they have what they need to get back on their feet.
DeSantis signed an executive order that sends National Guard and State Guard troops to Florida's ports to maintain order and possibly resume operations that are otherwise halted. All ears and eyes on the courtroom in Memphis, where a jury is deliberating the Tyre Nichols case. 3 black former police officers facing life in prison if convicted in Nichols' beating death. They've all pleaded not guilty. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
All right, friends, the Dr. Poss Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center continues to grow. I've been telling you for a while now that Dr. Brian McLaughlin is now on staff. He comes with the same exceptional credentials as Dr. Poss himself to help serve Middle Tennessee better. As they continue to grow, they're there and able to serve you. Fall's approaching. Now, let's talk about your insurance for a moment, because many of you perhaps have met your insurance deductible. If that's the case, it is a great time to schedule an appointment with Dr. Poss, Dr. McLaughlin, and the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center, because they are in network for United Healthcare, Cigna, Aetna, BCBS, and Medicare, and also a preferred provider for TRICARE for our military, so they can help you, and you can utilize your insurance to do this. And if you've met that deductible, now's a great time to do that. You know what I'm talking about. 2 locations to serve you for your convenience: Brentwood and Murfreesboro. Go to drposs.com. That's drposs.com, drposs.com for more information. And go and see Dr. Poss, meet Dr. McLaughlin, and see the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution difference. I invite you to check it out. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk. Thank you for being around with us. Hey, don't forget, C10 Nationals is this weekend, tomorrow and Saturday, and I'm very excited about that. The world's largest Chevy and GMC truck event is coming to Nashville Super Speedway this Friday and Saturday. What a great time to get out and about. It's Nashville Super Speedway. Now, you don't have to be a Chevy or a GMC truck owner, but if you are, it helps. But you can, register your truck on site to be a part of the show. You can also, and you'll receive 2 adult passes for both days, or spectator tickets, just $25 a day, parking free. More info at C, that's the letter C, 10, that's the number 10, nationals.com, c10nationals.com, packed with vendors, activities like autocross, a swap meet, a vendor midway, of course, drag racing, track cruise. I admit, I don't know what dyno is, but it sounds cool. DYNO. I don't know. I don't know what that is, but if I should, somebody let me know on the membersnutrition.com super text line. It is the world's largest Chevrolet and GMC truck event. I happen to own and drive a GMC. Coming to Nashville Super Speedway this Friday and Saturday. Be there this weekend. 40 minutes after the hour, lots of phone calls. Let's get to them. Dave is next. Hey, Dave. Thank you for holding, friend. Dave. Dave's not here. Hey, Dave. Dave's not here. Hey, is this Dave? This is Dave. Dave's not here, man. Dave, you there? Dave's not there. That's an old Cheech and Chong reference that I probably remembered incorrectly for reasons that I will not get to on the radio. That said, Dave, I'm sorry you held so long just to not be there when I went to you. Brig is next in the borough. Hello, Brig.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for the call, buddy.
Of course, man.
Hey, just want to comment on some of the things of the natural disaster relief and everything. I got family actually in Mountain City, Tennessee. We're kind of worried about. It's about 30 minutes north of Boone, North Carolina. So we were having family affected by all this. But talking about the donations with the natural disaster stuff, I really encourage all of my fellow brothers and sisters of 99.7 to kind of do your research on your giving. We all know Samaritan's Purse is great, and, the kind of debacle that FEMA is kind of going through, we don't, just like Ronald Reagan said, some worst things you can hear is, trust me, I'm from the government.
Well, so, the old line is, what is it, the 9 scariest words in the English language. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help.
Right. But there's another organization I want you to encourage listeners to look into. It's called Team Rubicon. Was founded over a decade ago by veterans of the Marine Corps. And, man, they do wonderful work, and they got boots on the ground right now. And they're just a great nonprofit charity called Team Rubicon if y'all want to look at. But the Samaritan Purse is great. And, guys, thank you so much. But just do your research. Look at places like, Red Cross. The CEO makes over $1 million a year. United Way, I think, CEO makes over $600,000 a year. So we really need to watch where our money goes.
You're right, and I beg of you to, and Brig, you're right on target. So here's what I tell people. I don't tell people who to give to. I tell people to use the brains that God gave you and use your heart as He leads you and give to trusted organizations that you believe in. Does that mean you'll be right every time? Of course not. You'll be wrong on occasion. But being wrong in a giving spirit, being wrong in a way that is attempting to help those who need it, that's okay. That's a risk that I'm willing to take. But there are trusted organizations. Samaritan's Purse is a wonderful organization. Salvation Army is a wonderful organization, as far as I know. The American Red Cross. Look, I don't have anything for the United Way. I'll just leave that for another time. I do not encourage. I don't tell you what to do. It's your money, right? I don't tell you where to give. I can tell you how I act. That's what I try to do. That's the way I try to do it on the show. And I would not and do not give to the United Way for a number of reasons that one of these days we can get into. American Red Cross. Brig is right. The American Red Cross has a good amount of overhead. They pay their CEOs a tremendous amount of money. They are also an organization that is best able and prepared to get into a given situation and give immediate need in times of natural disaster. And so they're a little bit of a double-edged sword in that I do think they do good work on the ground. I do think they organize good work on the ground, but I also have great concern about the overhead that does not go to these causes. Secondarily, a lot of times when you give and this is something that just is a non-starter for some people. Some people don't mind it so much. I'm not judging it one way or the other. I'm just telling you the truth, that when you give to the American Red Cross, it's like taking a cup of water and dumping it into a pool. Does that make sense to everyone? So when I go to take your specific cup of water out to do a specific thing with that specific cup of water, how do I find my water? Well, it's all commingled now. And so sometimes when you give to the American Red Cross, you don't know necessarily that your money is going to go specifically to Newport, Tennessee, or specifically to Asheville, North Carolina, or specifically to whatever community you want to make sure your money goes to. It's a more generalized donation to the American Red Cross. Now, they've gotten better about that over the last several years of trying to dedicate pools of money in order to make sure that the money that you give for this or that thing goes specifically to this or that thing. They've tried to repair that because it's been a ding on them for many, many years. But that is a risk that I think you run if you give to the American Red Cross. I encourage you to find as local a charity that you can that is reputable and that you trust, and give to that trusted charity, whether that's a church, a charitable organization within a community. I think Samaritan's Purse is headquartered in Boone, North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. And that's a wonderful organization, and I trust that organization. I haven't really found my wife and I would give regularly to the Jimmy Hale Mission, which was a local mission fund in Birmingham. I give to local dog charities. I give to cancer-based research charities because of my mother's cancer. And I'll give to Samaritan's Purse and the Salvation Army as well, and other local charities. But bottom line is this: you've got to find those charities that you trust. I can't tell you to trust them. You got to trust them for yourselves. Mike is in Morristown, and Mike joins us next. Hello, Mike.
I wanted to mention a couple places. My family and I have done lots of volunteer work for 8 Days of Hope and God's Pit Crew. If you're looking for a good donation, Samaritan's Purse, you mentioned, that is a very good place. But I don't know, you can donate, but also if you are looking for a great place to volunteer, then I would strongly recommend 8 Days of Hope and God's Pit Crew. They're both on Facebook, and just search their pages up and check them out.
Say that again, the last one, 8
Days of Hope and God's Pit Crew.
Okay, so those are two different ones, 8 Days of Hope and then God's Pit Crew.
Yes, sir.
Got it. Thank you, Mike, for the tips. Those are that's what we need, man. I mean, when trusted folks call in, just do your own. I just say, just do your own research, and remember some of the things that Patrick Sheehan told us as director of TEMA a few minutes ago. If someone comes to your door and says, I'm with TEMA and I need money, that's not true. They won't do that. Look for credentials, find credentials, take pictures of credentials, take pictures of those people, and then turn those photographs over to the local authorities, because those are scammers trying to take advantage of you and take your money. I am sad to note that there are plenty of scammers out there trying to glom off the generosity of us. And we have to be leery of it. Randy is next. Hey, Randy.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing well.
I heard you make the comment about the inability for helicopter pilots to get in, or that's what they were mentioning, or something like that.
Yeah, there was one particular helicopter pilot in and around, I don't think it was Asheville, but it was close to Asheville. It was in North Carolina, that did a documented video where he talked about his experience, where he went in to get someone. He found a couple. He got one person out, and then he was unable to go back to get the other guy because a fire chief told him that he wasn't permitted to fly and that he would be arrested if he tried to do it or something or another. It was a little bit of a one-off, but, these things happen during these situations, and so we were just reporting that.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, there's a guy, you can look him up on YouTube. His name goes by Cletus McFarland. He does reality type show, but he's got his own private helicopter, and I was watching it the other day, and him and his wife are actually flying in and flying out of people. She was on social media finding where these people were at, and he was landing this helicopter in places that would just blow your mind. I mean, just crazy, getting people out, flying supplies in, and it was pretty intriguing to watch and watch how they worked as a team. But also, he was putting that helicopter in places that was crazy, and he's an amateur guy. So I just kind of struck me that, that they might be having pilots that are backing out or something like that. So.
No, for the most part, we're dealing with, and thank you for the tip. I wrote that down. For the most part, it's people that are trying to help, and for whatever reason, I'm not going case by case because I don't know the situation case by case. But in a lot of circumstances, the authorities determine that for whatever reason, it is too dangerous to do an operation. I don't think most of these people, whether it's a local fire chief, a local police department, I don't think they're trying to hurt people. I don't believe that they're trying to let people die. I don't think they want people to not get rescued. But sometimes under an abundance of caution or following the rules to the letter, they tell certain people that they can't go into a situation, that they can't get there from here, that they can't take their helicopter there, and it pisses people off. I got to put it to where the goats can graze on it, right? It upsets people because they think that the government is well, these are local folks, man. I don't think their hearts are in the wrong place. They're just trying to not make a bad situation worse. Sometimes they make bad decisions. Sometimes those bad decisions look awful on social media. Sometimes those decisions are for the best for everyone involved. I don't believe that this is a one-size-fits-all, and I don't want you to go online and feel like, everybody's against you. I don't think TEMA's against us. I don't think that local officials in East Tennessee are against us. FEMA might be another story. Mayorkas might be another story. It's 2:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We come back in a moment and check in with Brian Wilson right after this. Winding down just in time for Brian Wilson in The Drive. Brian joining us to preview exactly what's coming up from 3 until 7. Hello, Mr. Wilson. How are you, sir?
I am well, but I'm angry. I'm getting palpably angry. My heart rate and my, the little veins in my neck are sticking out because I'm reading some of the things that are going on in North Carolina, or maybe I should say the things that aren't going on. Mm-hmm. Here you have FEMA, and they're supposed to be there to help people in times like this. And we're now finding out from Mayorkas that he spent over $1 billion to house migrants, and now he says he doesn't have enough money to get through the hurricane season, even though Congress just gave him $20 billion. And so, and then that's one thing. And then, Kamala Harris, the administration of Biden has given $8 billion to Ukraine. But don't worry, Kamala says if your house is in ruins and you have nothing left, don't worry, the government's going to give you $750. And that's just wrong.
It is.
And then I heard your story about the pilot. I have that story. There is another pilot who has gone on a rant to talk about some of the things that he has seen, or I think more accurately, not seen. He says nothing is happening.
Oh, goodness.
And if it weren't for the private sector and private pilots, he said that no rescue efforts would be underway.
Where are the Chinook helicopters?
And that's exactly what he says. I said, we're flying private helicopters. He said, if we get up, we may see 40 helicopters, but they're all private helicopters. We see 1 or 2 Blackhawks here and there.
Right.
He said, really, where are our helicopters? That's what is needed in this particular situation.
It's almost as if someone in the White House isn't really focused on it.
Something falling through the cracks, maybe. That's what it sounds like. So,
fired up, Brian Wilson.
We'll get at that right off the top.
Love it.
And don't you dare want to miss it, because I tell you, you're going to be shocked, stunned, and amazed.
He's fired up, ladies and germs. Brian Wilson always is, 3 to 7 this afternoon. I'll be listening. Hope you are as well. I'm out tomorrow. Cameron Smith is my last day off. I know I promised this the last time, but this really is the last time before the election, and really the last scheduled day off until Thanksgiving. So bear with me. Cameron in tomorrow from noon until 3, and then we're back on Monday. Have a wonderful weekend. Hug your loved ones. Listen to Brian Wilson. Until next time, so long, everybody.
Three o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and traffic is a mess already. We've got an injury crash blocking the right 2 lanes, 40 eastbound at Demonbreun, and then 40 westbound after 4th Avenue. And then about 42 miles west of downtown Nashville, 40 westbound is still the left lane blocked there by an overturned truck. That is a 24-minute delay. The backup has been close to 10 miles. Got the full forecast and another traffic update in 5 minutes. Hurricane Helene now blamed for at least 200 deaths across Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas. Here in Tennessee, the death toll stands at 11. And Tennessee Emergency Management Agency Director Patrick Sheehan tells WTN's Murphy Show, internet rumors are threatening more harm on the people in need.
TEMA and FEMA, none of us are out there confiscating donated supplies, foods, material, or money. Any reports of this are absolutely false.
Sheehan says TEMA isn't taking any cash donations. The TEMA website, he says, directs monetary donors to local charitable organizations whom the agency knows to be reputable. Cash might be an issue if another hurricane hits. At least that's what we're hearing from Selena Wang, covering President Biden's trip today to survey damage in Florida and Georgia.
Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas said that they only have enough funds to help the now, and that if there are other hurricanes this season, that they need more money. FEMA needs more resources. So President Biden has said that he may call Congress back to Washington for a special session to pass more funding. But the federal government has made clear that they are committed to helping in all of these immediate needs, but of course that they're also there in the long term.
Now, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is angered by the dock workers' strike that's threatening economic hardship. He's urging the Biden administration to do something to end it.
Biden-Harris has a responsibility to stand up for the storm victims, stand up for the people who've had their homes damaged or who've lost their homes, and make sure they have what they need to get back on their feet.
DeSantis signed an executive order today sending National Guard and State Guard troops to Florida's ports to maintain order and possibly resume operations. And right now in Colorado, a judge has sentenced a former county clerk to 9 years in prison for being accused of leading a security breach of her election's computer system inspired by claims of voting fraud in the 2020 election. Former Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters found guilty of most charges of election tampering and misconduct. Before announcing the sentence, Judge Matthew Barrett told Peters the damage she had done was immeasurable.
You are no hero. You abused your position, and you're a charlatan who used and is still using your prior position in office to peddle a snake oil that's been proven to be junk time and time again.
Peters was accused of giving an individual affiliated with the MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell access to the election software she used for her county. Screenshots of that software appeared on websites. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.